between 2010 and 2016, effectively there was a change in various relationships that we have, particularly and more specifically the Woolworths relationship. Woolworths was a franchise agreement. Franchise agreements are term agreements. So we came to an amiable understanding that they wanted to corporatize their business. And taking advantage of that, they bought the business from us on a staged process. And in order to do that, Deacons had to reorganize itself to ensure that it had a base of distribution agreements that could go into the future. And we now feel very confident that we have a business model that is sustainable for the future. It wasn't a delay, it was reorganizing the business, making sure that the business is in good stead. And then obviously in between you do get your one or two shocks. You remember the Westgate attack. That affected the business significantly because we were well invested in the Westgate Center. We're very, very invested in shopping malls. And customers became shy of those environments. So we've stabilized that. We've become less reliant just on Nairobi business, like you heard me saying about increasing your revenue streams, both from a product perspective and a geography perspective. So we've taken the right actions, we've mitigated risk, and we feel strongly that this is the right time to do it. Sometimes if you rush some of these initiatives, then you end up with the wrong side of the stick, and that the directors could not allow. It offers the business the opportunity to raise capital in more markets than just debt funding from the commercial banks. So that also is a big opportunity. And thirdly, it does raise our profile. It makes us more accountable, more responsible. It gives us a stronger foundation in order to grow our business into the future. I think at the right time, the directors of the business will take an informed view. Effectively, we do need more capital. That is a fact. We do need more capital into the future. Yeah. The way in which that capital will be attracted will depend on a lot of things. What the actual business requirement is. It'll depend on what sort of debt do we require, and what sort of capitalization do we require in order to ensure that debt is sustainable. So there'll be a mix of instruments that will be used. And in the event that there's a rights issue, for instance, then the directors will have to take a view on the number of shares available at that time. One shouldn't think that doing business in Kenya is easy. I think what's important is one, to understand the risk that one faces, particularly when trading away from home. There are other risks, inherent risks within each of those geographical areas when doing business that one must be aware of. And it's therefore what the directors, what the management do to mitigate that risk. Yeah. Feasibilities, understanding local market, creating partnerships within local markets in order to create better understanding of those markets. I think there are very many instruments available to business to ensure that risk of trading outside of one's borders is reduced as far as possible. So Tanzania, yes, was a difficult ground for us. It was a learning experience. I think the directors did the right thing to understand that maybe we went in too early, so they cut their losses earlier, sooner rather than later. And that leaves us with the opportunity to relaunch operations there. Even as we speak today, we're still trading in Tanzania with our life fitness business. It's a B2B business. So it still does give us channels into the Tanzanian market. It's a big market, it's a growing market. So I don't think there's any way that we can ignore that side of East Africa. We've been at the forefront of lobbying government to better understand why they do the things they do. Because a majority of players within the sector that we operate are actually not tax compliant, whether it's from an import perspective or from a VAT perspective or from a corporate tax perspective. And it's an opportunity for Kenya Revenue Authority, Uganda Revenue Authority, Rwanda Revenue Authority, Tanzania Revenue Authority to bring more people into the tax net so that people are all operating on a level playing field. For us, it's a challenge. We are fully compliant with our tax obligations at every level, and we encourage government and we cajole government to make sure that more players are brought within the same operating environment in order to create a level playing field. The directors have set a target of 6 billion shillings in 2020, so doubling the size of the business.
And in terms of opening new towns?
And with regards to our expansion program, yeah. I think there is a big opportunity. We've only got one store in Mombasa. We think the city of Mombasa can take a brands. We think the other bigger county headquarters that are showing aggressive commercial interest, both from a property development perspective and from a consumerization perspective, we think we can play a role in those markets: Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Meru, Kisii. We think those towns have formalized in such a way that we can actually participate in that growth. An ESOP program for me, as the Chief Executive Officer, is one that gives the opportunity for staff across the leadership divide through to the sales staff who meet with the customers to participate in that ESOP. And it should be motivational, and it should allow for staff members to create ownership of the business in order to motivate them for productivity purposes.